Let's talk about the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is one more tool we're going to add to our notes in order to help us solve quadratic equations. Sometimes I cannot use zero product property or complete the square because it's impossible or we haven't learned the techniques such as with complete the square. In order to take care of this, I'm going to learn this formula, and now I can solve any quadratic equation. Now it's really important to note that your quadratic equation needs to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And as long as you're in that form, I can identify my a, b, and c and plug them into the formula. X equals the opposite of b, or negative b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2a. Let's look at this in action. I'm given the equation 3x squared minus 9x minus 1 equals 0. That is in my form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now I can look and identify my pieces and find the number in front of x squared, which is my a, my coefficient on x, which is my b, and my constant term, which is c. So for this problem, my a is 3, my b is negative 9, and my c is negative 1. Now what I'm doing is everywhere I see an a in my equation, I plug in my value of 3. Wherever I see b in my equation, I'm going to plug in negative 9. And wherever I see a c in my equation, I'm going to plug in negative 1. So x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared, and remember you need to include those parentheses, minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. Simplifying down, the opposite of negative 9 is 9, plus or minus the square root. Negative 9 squared is 81. Negative 4 times 3 times negative 1 gives me a plus 12. All divided by 2 times 3 equals 6. And I'm going to make a little side note here. Hey, 81 plus 12 equals 93. So I really have x equals 9 plus or minus the square root of 93, all divided by 6. Which, because of that plus or minus, splits me into 2 separate equations because there are 2 possible outcomes for x. X equals 9 plus the square root of 93, all divided by 6, or x equals 9 minus the square root of 93, all divided by 6. And again, those 2 answers are my exact answers. I did not use a calculator to punch them up and get an approximation. I simply wrote down the most simple way I had of solving it, but keeping the square roots. So now when I punch that up, my first equation that came from x equals 9 plus the square root of 93 divided by 6 is approximately 3.107. And then using the equation x equals 9 minus the square root of 93, all divided by 6, I'm going to end up with, punching this up in my calculator, negative 0.107. And again, those are my approximate values, my approximate answers to this equation. And there you have it, your example on using the quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations.